You. Yes, the one who learned to shrink herself so others could feel bigger. The one who apologized for existing too loudly, dreaming too wildly, or wanting too much. I see you. And I want you to know something that might change everything. The universe doesn't reward those who make themselves smaller. It rewards those who dare to expand. You grew up believing that your worth was something you had to earn, not something you were born with, not something written into the very atoms that make up your being. No, they taught you that worth was conditional, that it came with approval, with silence, with sacrifice, with the careful art of being just enough, but never too much. You learned to read rooms before you entered them, to measure your words before they left your lips, to dim your light so it wouldn't blind the fragile egos around you. And somewhere along the way, you forgot that stars aren't meant to apologize for shining. I think about this often, how we teach young girls to be careful with their brilliance, as if intelligence were a burden others shouldn't have to carry, as if ambition were something unseemly, as if wanting more, dreaming bigger, reaching higher were forms of greed rather than what they actually are, the fundamental drive of consciousness itself. You see, when I look at humanity, I see a species that's barely scratched the surface of what it's capable of. And when I look at you, at every woman who's been told to be smaller, quieter, less, I see potential that's been systematically suppressed. Not out of malice necessarily, but out of fear. Fear of what happens when half the population realizes they've been operating at a fraction of their capacity. They told you to be modest, to be humble, to wait your turn, to let others speak first, to consider everyone's feelings before your own. And you did. You waited. You listened. You considered. You accommodated. You bent yourself into shapes that pleased others, while breaking yourself in the process. And here's what nobody told you. That kind of selflessness isn't noble. It's a slow erosion of self. You watched other people claim space unapologetically. You saw them make demands, set boundaries, pursue opportunities with a confidence that seemed to come naturally to them. And you wondered what was wrong with you. Why couldn't you just ask for what you wanted? Why did every request feel like begging? Why did every boundary feel like betrayal? But there was nothing wrong with you. You were just operating on outdated programming. Think of it this way. If I tried to run modern software on hardware from 1995, it wouldn't work. Not because the software is bad, but because the system wasn't designed to support it. You're trying to run advanced consciousness, creativity, ambition, vision, desire on a system that was programmed for compliance. You felt it every time you bit your tongue, every time you laughed at a joke that wasn't funny, every time you said yes when every cell in your body screamed no, every time you sacrificed your needs for someone who wouldn't do the same for you. Every time you minimized your achievements so others wouldn't feel inadequate. Every time you apologized for taking up space in a world that told you to be grateful for whatever crumbs fell from the table. And the worst part? You started believing the story they told you. That your worth was negotiable. That your value was up for debate. That you needed permission to be fully yourself. I've built companies from nothing. I've watched rockets explode and rebuilt them. I've faced criticism that would crush most people, and I can tell you this with absolute certainty. The greatest obstacle to achievement isn't external resistance. It's the internal voice that says, you're not enough. You know that voice. The one that sounds like every person who ever made you feel small. The one that catalogs your failures and ignores your successes. The one that whispers you're an imposter every time you reach for something bigger. The one that tells you to be grateful for mediocrity, because excellence is for other people. That voice isn't yours, it's an echo. You've been carrying other people's limitations as if they were your own. Their fears became your ceiling, their doubts became your boundaries, their insecurities became your prison. And you called it wisdom, you called it maturity, you called it being realistic. But there's nothing realistic about denying your own potential. I look at the problems humanity faces: climate change, planetary extinction risk, consciousness itself, and I realize we can't afford to waste half our species' cognitive capacity on outdated social programming. We can't afford to have brilliant minds second-guessing themselves because they were taught that confidence in women is arrogance. You have ideas that could change things, solutions that could help people, visions that could reshape industries. But you've been editing yourself for so long that you've forgotten what you actually think. You've become so skilled at anticipating what others want to hear that you've lost touch with your own voice.
And here's the thing about voices, they atrophy when you don't use them.
Every time you stayed silent when you should have spoken, you weakened your capacity for self-expression. Every time you deferred to someone less qualified because they were louder, you reinforced the neural pathways of self-suppression. Every time you chose peace over truth, you traded a piece of yourself for temporary comfort. And now you're tired. Tired of performing. Tired of pretending. Tired of carrying the emotional labor for everyone around you while your own needs go unmet. Tired of being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who holds it together while falling apart inside. You look at your life and wonder when it stopped being yours. When did your dreams become background noise to everyone else's demands? When did your worth become measured by how useful you were to others rather than how true you were to yourself? The answer is gradually, then suddenly. Like a rocket that slowly bleeds fuel until one day it can't achieve liftoff. Like a battery that drains imperceptibly until it can't hold a charge. Like a soul that gives and gives and gives until there's nothing left to give. You're running on empty, and you're doing it with a smile on your face because that's what you were taught. That your pain doesn't matter as long as others are comfortable. That your exhaustion is the price of being good. That martyrdom is somehow virtuous. But there's nothing virtuous about self-destruction. Let me tell you something I learned from physics. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, it can only be transformed. The same is true for worth. Your value isn't something that can be added or subtracted based on someone else's perception. It's a fundamental property of your existence. You don't earn worth, you have it inherently, unconditionally, irrevocably. This isn't mystical thinking. It's basic logic. You exist. Therefore, you have value. The universe doesn't make mistakes of that magnitude. It doesn't create consciousness accidentally. It doesn't grant self-awareness to beings who aren't supposed to use it. But here's where it gets interesting. While worth is inherent, the recognition of that worth is learned, and you were taught to look for validation in all the wrong places. You sought approval from people who were threatened by your potential. You asked for permission from systems designed to limit you. You tried to prove yourself to those who benefited from your doubt. And when you didn't receive the validation you needed, you concluded that something was wrong with you. But the problem wasn't you. It was the measurement system. If I measured rocket performance using standards designed for bicycles, I'd conclude that rockets are failures. They're too heavy, too expensive, too complex, too dangerous. But rockets aren't meant to be bicycles. They're meant to escape gravity. And you're not meant to be small. You're meant to take up space, to make noise, to demand more, to refuse compromise on your fundamental needs, to set boundaries that protect your energy, to pursue goals that terrify you, to claim opportunities without apologizing, to exist loudly, unapologetically, completely. But you've spent so long in low power mode that you've forgotten what full capacity feels like. Think about your phone when it's in battery saver mode. Everything still works, technically, but it's slower, dimmer, limited. That's been your life. You've been operating at reduced capacity for so long that you think it's normal. It's not normal. It's survival mode. And survival mode is only meant to be temporary a state you enter during crisis, not a permanent way of living. But you've been in crisis so long you don't remember what peace feels like. You've been bracing for impact so long, you can't relax even when you're safe. Your nervous system is stuck in threat response. Every interaction feels like a test. Every conversation feels like a negotiation. Every relationship feels like a performance. Because you learned that your authentic self wasn't acceptable, that you needed to earn the right to exist as you are. But authenticity isn't earned, it's claimed. I spent years being told I was too ambitious, too blunt, too focused, too intense. And I could have listened. I could have modulated myself to make others comfortable. I could have apologized for wanting to change the world. But I realized something crucial. The people who tell you to dream smaller are usually living small dreams themselves. Their comfort with mediocrity isn't wisdom, it's limitation. And their advice isn't guidance, it's projection. You've been taking advice from people who are afraid of their own potential, who chose security over significance, who traded their dreams for approval, who look at your ambition and see a reflection of everything they gave up. And instead of celebrating your courage, they try to talk you down from the ledge. But you're not on a ledge, you're on a launch pad. And the only question that matters is, are you going to ignite, or are you going to stay grounded because someone else is afraid of heights? Here's what I know about fear. It's often disguised as practicality, as concern, as wisdom, as love. People who are afraid will give you 1,000 logical reasons why you should be afraid too. They'll tell you about risks, about statistics, about all the ways things could go wrong. And they'll call it protecting you. But protection that prevents growth isn't protection, it's imprisonment. You don't need protection from your own potential. You need permission to pursue it. Not from anyone else, from yourself. You need to give yourself permission to want more, to reach higher, to demand better, to walk away from anything that makes you smaller. And I know what you're thinking, but what if I'm selfish? What if I hurt people? What if I'm wrong?
Let me address that, because this is where conditioning runs deepest.
You've been taught that self-interest is selfishness, that prioritizing your needs is neglecting others, that setting boundaries is being difficult, that having standards is being demanding, that wanting reciprocity is being needy. This is gaslighting on a societal scale. Self-interest isn't selfishness, it's self-preservation. It's recognizing that you can't pour from an empty cup. It's understanding that your needs matter as much as anyone else's. It's accepting that you're not responsible for managing everyone's emotions while neglecting your own. You're not a support system for others. You're a complete human being with your own dreams, needs, and desires. And here's something they never told you. The people who benefit from your self-sacrifice will always have reasons why you should keep sacrificing. There will always be one more emergency, one more crisis, one more situation where you're the only one who can help. One more reason why now isn't the time to focus on yourself. Because if you ever start focusing on yourself, the whole system collapses. Not because you're essential, but because everyone got used to using you as a resource. They got comfortable with your discomfort. They got dependent on your depletion. And your liberation threatens their convenience. This is why change feels so hard. You're not just changing yourself. You're disrupting an entire ecosystem that was built around your compliance. Think of it like this. When I decided to make electric cars mainstream, I wasn't just building vehicles. I was challenging an entire industry that had optimized around fossil fuels. The resistance wasn't just technical. It was systemic. Because I was threatening the foundation of how things had always been done. That's what you're doing when you reclaim your worth. You're challenging systems that benefited from your undervaluation. You're disrupting relationships that depended on your submission. You're threatening the status quo that kept you small. And yes, there will be resistance. People will be uncomfortable. They'll question your changes. They'll miss the old you, the one who said yes, who accommodated, who didn't make waves. They'll tell you you're being selfish, that you've changed, that you're not yourself anymore.
I got right about one thing: you have changed. You've stopped being who they needed you to be and started being who you actually are.
That's not a loss. It's a reclamation. So here's where we are. You've recognized that the worth you've been seeking was inside you all along. You understand that the validation you needed was your own. You see that the permission you were waiting for will never come from anyone else. Now what? Now you build, not from scratch, from foundation. Because you're not starting over. You're excavating down to bedrock and building something real on solid ground. First, you need to understand something about architecture. The strength of a structure isn't determined by its height. It's determined by its foundation. And your foundation is your relationship with yourself. Everything else, career, relationships, Impact is built on that. So you start there with the fundamental questions. Who are you when nobody's watching? What do you want when you're not performing? What do you believe when you're not worried about being wrong? What do you need when you stop prioritizing everyone else? These aren't easy questions, because answering them honestly means confronting how much of your life has been lived on someone else's terms. How many decisions were made to please others? How many dreams were deferred because they seemed impractical? How many relationships were maintained out of obligation rather than genuine connection? But this confrontation is necessary. You can't build a new structure on a faulty foundation. You have to clear the ground first. And clearing the ground means releasing what no longer serves you. The relationships that drain more than they give. The commitments that feel like obligations. The beliefs that limit your potential. The patterns that keep you small. The stories that aren't true anymore, if they ever were. This is the hardest part. Not because releasing things is difficult, but because you've been conditioned to hold on, to make it work, to give it one more chance, to be patient, to be understanding, to be forgiving. Not of yourself, but of everyone who takes you for granted. But here's what I learned from engineering. Sometimes the best solution isn't to fix what's broken. It's to redesign entirely. To question the fundamental assumptions. To ask, what if we started from first principles? First principles thinking means breaking something down to its fundamental truths and building up from there. So let's do that with your life. Fundamental truth 1. Your time is finite. Every hour you spend on something that doesn't align with your values is an hour you'll never get back. This isn't pessimism, it's economics. Resource allocation. You have limited time and unlimited options, which means every yes to something is a no to everything else. Fundamental truth 2. Your energy is renewable, but not infinite. You can recharge, but only if you stop depleting yourself constantly. And you can't recharge while simultaneously giving everything away. You need rest. Real rest. Not the kind where you're physically still, but mentally managing everyone's problems. The kind where you're genuinely off. Unavailable. Uninterrupted. Fundamental truth 3. Your worth is not transactional. It doesn't increase when you're useful and decrease when you're not. It's constant, which means you don't need to earn the right to rest, to pursue your interests, to have needs, to set boundaries, or to exist as you are. These truths seem obvious when you say them out loud, but you've been living as if the opposite were true, as if your time were infinite and therefore worthless, as if your energy were limitless and therefore disposable, as if your worth were conditional and therefore negotiable. Living in alignment with these truths requires a complete rewiring, not of who you are, but of how you operate. You start saying no, not apologetically, not with lengthy explanations, just no, that doesn't work for me. And you resist the urge to fill the silence with justifications, because no is a complete sentence, and you don't owe anyone an explanation for honoring your boundaries. You start asking for what you want, directly, clearly, without hedging or softening or making it easy for people to say no. You state your needs as facts, not requests, because your needs aren't favors, they're requirements for your well-being. You start making decisions based on what serves you, not what pleases others. And when those decisions disappoint people, you let them be disappointed. Their disappointment is not your responsibility to manage. Your job is to live authentically, not to be convenient. This feels radical because it is. You're dismantling years of conditioning. You're rebuilding neural pathways. You're establishing new patterns. And your brain, which likes efficiency and predictability, will resist. It will tell you you're being selfish, that you're hurting people, that you're doing it wrong. But that voice isn't intuition. It's fear. Fear of change. Fear of conflict. Fear of losing people. Fear of being alone. Fear of being too much or not enough, or wrong, or selfish, or any of the 100 things you've been taught to fear about claiming your full self. And here's what I know about fear. It's not a stop sign. It's a compass. It points toward growth, toward edges, toward the boundaries of your current capacity. And the only way to expand capacity is to push past fear. When I landed the first Falcon 9 booster, people said it was impossible, that it violated the laws of physics, that I was wasting money on a pipe dream, and I could have listened to that fear. I could have concluded they were right. But I understood something crucial. The loudest voices are often the least informed. The people telling you you're too much, or not enough, or doing it wrong. They're speaking from their own limitations, not universal truth. Their comfort zone isn't your ceiling. Their fear of change isn't your roadmap. Their need for you to stay small isn't your responsibility. You don't need to live within their boundaries, you need to establish your own. And when you do, something extraordinary happens. You discover who you actually are. Not the performed version, not the accommodating version, not the people-pleasing version, the real version. The one who has opinions and needs and boundaries and dreams and standards and expectations. This version might surprise you. She might be louder than you thought, more demanding, less patient with nonsense, more interested in truth than harmony, more focused on impact than approval, more committed to growth than comfort. She might want things you've been afraid to want, a career that matters, relationships that reciprocate, space that's yours, time that's protected, energy that's preserved, dreams that are pursued, standards that are maintained. She might not need as many people in her life as you thought, because she values depth over breadth, quality over quantity, genuine connection over comfortable familiarity. You might walk away from things you thought were essential, jobs that drain her, relationships that diminish her, obligations that deplete her, patterns that limit her, beliefs that cage her. And that's not loss, that's liberation. Because here's what happens when you stop living for approval. You start living for purpose. When you stop managing everyone's comfort, you start building your own dreams. When you stop accommodating dysfunction, you start attracting reciprocity. Your life doesn't fall apart when you set boundaries, it falls into place. The right people don't leave when you establish standards, they rise to meet them. The right opportunities don't disappear when you assert your worth, they multiply. The right path doesn't close when you stop forcing the wrong one, it opens. But you have to be willing to release what's not working, to let go of relationships that only function when you're diminished, to walk away from situations that require your silence, to abandon patterns that demand your compliance. And that requires courage, not the absence of fear, but action despite it. Not the certainty of success, but commitment to authenticity. Not the guarantee of comfort, but the pursuit of truth. This is your launchpad moment. The moment between grounded and airborne. The moment when you decide, do I stay in the comfort of what I know, or do I ignite toward what I could become? You're standing at a threshold. Behind you is everything you've known. The patterns, the people, the beliefs, the version of yourself that fit into boxes others built. Ahead of you is uncertainty, possibility, the unknown territory of a life lived on your terms. And here's what I want you to understand. Uncertainty isn't weakness, it's the space where transformation happens. When we were developing reusable rockets, there was no playbook. No one had done it successfully. We had theory, physics, determination, and an absolute conviction that it was possible. But we didn't have certainty. What we had was better than certainty. We had purpose. And that's what you need now. Not certainty about every step, not guarantees about every outcome, but clarity about your purpose, why you're here, what you're building, who you're becoming. Your purpose isn't external validation. It's not making everyone comfortable. It's not being universally liked, or avoiding all conflict, or maintaining peace at any cost. Those are survival strategies from a time when you believed your worth was conditional. Your purpose is contribution, creation, evolution, impact, the unique expression of consciousness that only you can offer. The specific combination of experiences, insights, talents, and perspectives that make you irreplaceable. Not because you're better than anyone, but because you're singular. There's only one you. There will only ever be one you. And every moment you spend being who others want you to be is a moment the real you remains unexpressed. That's not just a personal loss, it's a universal one. Because the world doesn't need another copy of what already exists. It needs your original contribution. Think about this. The universe spent 13.8 billion years creating the specific conditions for your consciousness to exist. Every star that exploded, every planet that formed, every species that evolved, every historical event that led to your parents' meeting, every choice that resulted in your existence. That's not an accident, that's intention. Not in a mystical sense, but in a mathematical one. The probability of you existing is so infinitesimally small that your existence itself is the most compelling evidence of your significance. You're not a cosmic mistake. You're a cosmic imperative. And living small isn't humility. It's denial. It's refusing the gift of consciousness. It's squandering the opportunity of existence. It's choosing comfort over contribution. I know this might sound intense, but intensity is appropriate when we're talking about the fundamental question of how you spend your finite time, conscious, in an infinite universe. You have decades left. Maybe 3, maybe 5, maybe 7 if you're fortunate. What are you going to do with them? Keep performing? Keep accommodating? Keep sacrificing yourself for people who wouldn't do the same for you? Keep waiting for permission that will never come? Keep making yourself smaller so others can feel bigger? Or are you going to do something different? Are you going to speak your truth even when your voice shakes? Are you going to pursue your dreams even when people call them unrealistic? Are you going to set boundaries even when people call you difficult? Are you going to honor your needs even when people call you selfish? Are you going to show up as yourself fully, completely, unapologetically, even when it costs you relationships that were only comfortable because you were compressed? Because here's what I've learned from building companies, launching rockets, and trying to advance human civilization. The cost of authenticity is always less than the cost of suppression. You'll lose some people. You'll face some criticism. You'll experience some discomfort. But what you'll gain is yourself, your energy, your purpose, your joy, your peace, your potential, your life. And that's not a fair trade. It's the only trade that matters. I think about legacy a lot, not in the egotistical sense, but in the practical one. When I'm gone, will humanity be better positioned for long-term survival? Will we have the technology to become multi-planetary? Will we have solved problems that seemed unsolvable? You should think about legacy too. Not what people will say about you, but what you'll have contributed, what you'll have created, what you'll have experienced, who you'll have become, how you'll have grown, what you'll have learned, how you'll have loved. Because in the end, that's all any of us have. The measure of whether we lived fully or safely, whether we expanded or contracted, whether we honored our potential or suppressed it for others' comfort. And I want you to understand something crucial. The people who love you authentically want you to expand. They want you to thrive. They want you to pursue your dreams. They want you to set boundaries. They want you to honor your needs. They want you to be happy. The people who need you small, they don't love you, they love what you do for them. And when you stop doing it, they'll leave or adjust. Either way, you win. Because you'll either release what wasn't real or transform it into something that is. There's no version of this where you lose by being yourself. The only loss is continuing to perform. So, here's my final thought, the thing I want you to carry forward. Your worth isn't something you need to prove, earn, or justify. It's something you need to claim, honor, and protect. Not aggressively, but firmly. Not apologetically, but clearly. Not conditionally, but absolutely. You don't need to be perfect to be valuable. You don't need to be useful to be worthy. You don't need to sacrifice yourself to be good. You don't need to be small to be loved. You don't need permission to be yourself. You just need to decide, right now, in this moment, that you're done living as if your existence requires justification. That you're done waiting for external validation. That you're done making yourself smaller for others' comfort. You're done performing and you're ready to live. Not someday when conditions are perfect. Not after you've prepared more or healed more or become more. Now, with everything you currently are, which is already enough. Because the version of you that's waiting for permission to be fully herself, she's waiting for something that will never come. Permission has to come from you. The green light has to come from you. The validation has to come from you. And once you give it to yourself, everything changes. Not instantly, not magically, but inevitably. Because you'll stop accommodating what diminishes you and start pursuing what expands you. You'll stop explaining yourself to people who don't want to understand and start surrounding yourself with those who do. You'll stop forcing what doesn't fit and start building what does. Your life will begin to reflect your values instead of others' expectations. Your days will fill with purpose instead of obligation. Your relationships will deepen through authenticity instead of performance. Your work will matter because it's aligned with who you are, not what you think you should be. This is the transformation. Not from broken to fixed, but from suppressed to expressed. Not from wrong to right, but from performed to authentic. Not from worthless to valuable, but from unaware to awaken. You always had worth, you always had value, you always had potential. You just forgot. And forgetting isn't failure, it's conditioning. But now you're remembering, and remembering changes everything. So go forward knowing this: you're not too much, you're not too little, you're not too loud, or too quiet, or too ambitious, or too needy, or too demanding, or too anything. You're exactly what you need to be, which is yourself. And yourself is enough, has always been enough, will always be enough. Not because of what you do, but because of what you are. A unique expression of consciousness with inherent value, unlimited potential, and the absolute right to exist fully, completely, unapologetically. The universe didn't make a mistake when it made you. It made a masterpiece. And masterpieces aren't meant to hide in corners. They're meant to be seen, experienced, celebrated. So step forward, take up space, make noise, demand more, set boundaries, honor needs, pursue dreams, be loud, be soft, be complex, be simple, be contradictory, be evolving, be uncertain, be confident, be learning, be teaching, be all of it, because you contain multitudes, and multitudes don't fit in boxes. Be yourself, the real, full, complete version, not the edited one, not the performed one, not the people-pleasing one, the authentic one who's been waiting her whole life for permission to exist. You don't need permission anymore. You have everything you need right now to begin living as yourself. And that beginning doesn't require perfect conditions or complete certainty or total confidence. It just requires a decision. One decision, one choice. One moment where you say, enough. I'm done waiting, I'm done performing, I'm done living small. I'm ready to expand. Worth was never something you lost. It was something you forgot you owned.